Welcome back to another Shift Gears Drink Beers. It's wintertime in Ohio. The weather hasn't been great. We haven't gotten a ton of snow, but it's coming, and the conditions have been pretty brutal over the past couple weeks. So I thought it would be time for a little bit of a DIY studded tires project to help gain some extra traction over the winter months here. Today we're going to be installing the Gold Ice screws. Just taking the cheap route this time. I didn't feel like spending $600 on a tire. So I thought, let's just give this a shot and see how it goes. It's really cheap. I think it was like 75 or 80 bucks. I will link it here in the description. So if you want to check them out for yourself. I'm going to install it on both the front and the rear tires. I'll go through my tire pattern, how to install it, and what to watch out for if you're running tubes or mousses. So let's get into the install. I did pick up the 1,000 pack of one of these, but I split it with one of my buddies. So I have more than enough for 2 tires. I think they recommend anywhere between 100 and 150 depending on the tread pattern on your tire and how many you want to put in. So we're just going to go through, install a bunch of these screws. All you need is a 1/4 inch bit and a drill, and put them in any pattern that you feel is sufficient for your conditions. We're going to start with the rear tire. Really start anywhere here, and we'll just take it. Again, I have mousses, so I don't have to worry about it, but these are a 1/2 inch, and you can see I have plenty of tread on this tire. All I did was throw the stock tire from my bike. I've just had it sitting in the garage for quite some time. Didn't really have a use for it. And my other tire was... And that's all you gotta do. I will say, the harder the compound of the tire, the better. If you're using a gummy, they're probably not gonna stay in there very well. I'm just gonna go through and put a bunch of these in. I'm probably gonna do every single one in the middle. Like I said, I'm not too worried about using too many screws because I have more than enough of them. And you just screw them in, and then they kind of stop once the head gets in there. These are eventually going to fall out, so having extras is really good. By no means a permanent solution. But, you know, if you're just riding a couple times a year in the winter, or you just wanna go out and have a little fun, and you have an extra tire laying around, why not give it a shot? When you get to your front tire, one thing you want to be aware of is to not put any screws on the outside of the tread pattern. That's going to cause you to climb out of some ruts and could get you into some bad situations there. So make sure you're staying on the middle of it or just on that outer side of it. But again, avoid the very outside of the tread pattern. And you're doing the same thing here. Again, be aware of the depth of your tread. They're typically a bit shorter in the front. This tire is a bit more worn than the one I put on the back. So again, if you're running tubes, you potentially cause a flat there, and just be careful before you put them in. Let me go ahead and finish off this front tire, and then I'll show you the end result. I just finished installing all the screws on both the front and the rear tire. A couple things I learned, just make sure you put them in pretty slowly, just so you don't twist the rubber, especially on the front where the treading isn't quite as big. So here's my rear tire. You can see I went with every single stud across the middle here, and then on the outsides in the back I went 1, 2, and then skipped 1. So 1, 2, skipped 1, 1, 2, skipped 1. You get it. So I just did that because I don't really, I mean, you can see these aren't worn nearly as much, and I wanted to make sure I had enough screws to get everything done on the front as well. I was kind of hopping back and forth between the front and the back, make sure I had enough. I didn't even get close to it. I don't know exactly how many I used, but I have plenty left over. And then on the front, I did something very similar. As I mentioned, don't put any on the outside here, but then I went with every single one, 2 of them on the middle pattern, and then along this strip here, I skipped every other one. I fully expect these to fall out. I don't know how well you'll be able to replace them in the rubber, if it's just going to strip it out or what, but this will allow me to use these ones in the future if necessary. Overall, this was a very easy job. All you're doing is putting screws into a tire. If you have tubes, just be very careful. Make sure that you don't puncture any of those. If you have a mousse like me, you're gonna be better off. You don't have to worry about that. Maybe it'll rip up your mousse a little bit. We'll see whenever spring comes around and I take these off. Thanks again for watching. My next video is probably gonna be a review on these studs, see how long they stayed in, how well they held up, and then let's see if they even made a difference as far as traction goes. But I'm looking forward to it. It's been brutal out there recently. Appreciate you watching. I'll catch you in the next one.